Hello everyone, welcome to my channel SW Metro official channel.
Meri Brown of Sister Wives reveals her true feelings and takes petty swipes at Christine. Meri Brown takes petty swipes at Christine. The OG three wives appeared to get along well when Sister Wives first started in 2010. They had one husband, one house, and all of their children together. Meri Brown, a former first wife, praised Christine Brown-Woolley, a former third wife, for how she ran the house. Throughout the early years of the show, they even had fun times at various events. Sadly, it was discovered that the women were not as close as they seemed, with Christine and Janelle Brown remaining as close friends. In the past few years, Janelle has confided in Meri, but Christine has not. At Christine's daughter Gwendolyn Brown's engagement party, the two women did hug, but it faded after that. In September 2025, Christine's tell-all memoir will be released, and she is not holding back. Therefore, fans are ready and raring to read it. Meri had previously hinted at a book, but it never materialized, and now she is criticizing her former sister wife. She posted a video to social media in which she made it clear that she could keep the tea close to her chest rather than spill it. The Sister Wives star was taking an indirect jab at Christine Brown-Woolley for doing what she is and even landing a book tour. Meri Brown also said that telling her side helps her keep her peace, so she doesn't have to. It more strongly suggests that she is envious of Christine for everything she has accomplished since Kody. She has not only left on her own, but she has also married, found love, and started new businesses. Finally, she has an in-demand book. Not a good idea. After Sister Wives fans saw what Meri Brown had to say, they were not pleased with her. They assumed without justification that she was mocking Christine Brown-Woolley right away. If she so chooses, she can lead a private life without publishing a book. However, Christine's desire to express her side is also legitimate. It's fine if you don't want to spill the tea, but I can't help but think that this is a jab at Christine and her upcoming book release. I'm so glad that book was written by her. Following so much abuse. Make the tea money. I respect Christine's and your rights to refuse. It's tea to you. But I think it's just openness. It was also suggested that Meri's story was told by others, so maybe she could take her control back. At this point, it will be interesting to see if Christine's book comes up in season 20. Moreover, how her sister wives will react to this news, as well as Kody Brown. Brown family, crackled with a tension so profound it felt like the prelude to a thunderclap. This was not the usual bickering or the passive-aggressive sniping that had become the soundtrack to Sister Wives' decline. This was the seismic culmination of 13 years of neglect, 30 years of patriarchal rule, and a woman's spirit pushed so far beyond its breaking point that it snapped back with the velocity of a whip. The explosive showdown between Christine and Kody was not merely an argument, it was an exorcism. It was the moment the scapegoat stopped accepting the blame, the moment the queen deposed the tyrant king in the court of public opinion, and it left the perennial mediator, Robyn, not just speechless, but utterly and completely unmasked. For years, Christine had played her assigned role, the cheerful, sometimes desperate, peacemaker, the woman who craved a functioning plural family above all else, even her own happiness. She had swallowed her pain over Kody's blatant favoritism of Robyn, choked down her resentment at being uprooted from her community in Las Vegas, and plastered on a smile while her husband spent the majority of his time and emotional energy at another wife's home. But the COVID-19 pandemic acted as a great clarifier, stripping away the pretense and exposing the rot at the family's core. Kody's draconian and ever-shifting rules were not about safety, they were about control, and more pointedly, they were a convenient barrier to keep him sequestered with Robyn and her children, the only family he seemed genuinely invested in protecting, or even liking. The neglect of Christine's children, particularly Isabel's major spinal surgery, which Kody attended with the enthusiasm of a man getting a root canal, was the final, unforgivable betrayal. The love she had clung to for so long had not just died, it had been systematically starved and suffocated until all that remained was a cold, hard ember of righteous fury. The confrontation itself was a masterclass in catharsis. Kody, ever the narcissist, entered the space expecting to dictate the terms of the discussion, to play the wounded lion whose authority was being challenged. He lobbed his classic accusations. Christine was a divorcee, she was disloyal, she was poisonous and turning the family against him. He expected her to crumble, to plead, to justify herself within the confines of his warped narrative. But he was met not with the broken woman he once knew, but with a phoenix of indignation. Christine, her voice trembling not with fear but with unleashed power, refused to play his game. She systematically dismantled his every point, not with hysterics, but with a devastating, calm clarity. She articulated the unspoken truth: his actions had consequences. His failure to be a husband had killed the marriage. His failure to be a father had fractured the family. She was not the cause of the destruction, she was simply the one refusing to sweep the rubble under the rug anymore. And then came the slap. It was not physical, but its impact was perhaps more devastating. In response to Kody's performative declaration, "Look at me. I'm here. I showed up," a statement meant to paint him as the heroic participant in a conversation he was losing, Christine delivered the verbal blow that would echo through every subsequent episode and define the entire season. With a look of pure, unvarnished contempt, she stated the simple, irrefutable truth: "You showed up for a fight, Kody. You always show up for a fight." In that single sentence, she exposed the entirety of his modus operandi. He wasn't present for connection, for resolution, or for love. He was present for conflict, for dominance, for the adrenaline rush of battle where he could play the victim and the hero simultaneously. She held up a mirror to his soul and forced him to see the petty, combative stranger staring back. The slap landed. You could see it in his eyes, the shock, the fury of a man whose carefully constructed persona had been not just challenged, but shattered in front of the cameras he so often believed he could manipulate. This is where Robyn's speechlessness becomes the most telling element of the entire scene. She sat there, the supposed expert on family harmony and communication, the woman who positioned herself as the empathetic bridge between Kody and his difficult wives, and she said nothing. Not a word of mediation, not a tearful plea for understanding, not even a defense of her husband. Her silence was a roaring testament to her true role. For years, she had benefited from the dynamic, playing the compassionate peacemaker while being the sole beneficiary of the system she claimed to want to fix. She was the favorite wife, and her power relied on the other wives remaining in a state of manageable dissatisfaction, always seeking the crumbs of Kody's attention that she enjoyed in loaves. Christine's defiance was a direct threat to that ecosystem. If the other wives stopped playing the game, stopped vying for Kody's favor, then Robyn was no longer the special one, she was just the one stuck with him. Her speechlessness was not a lack of words, but a paralysis born of strategic calculation crumbling in real time. The mask of the benevolent sister-wife slipped entirely, revealing a woman confronted with a revolution she could not quell with tears. She was not saddened by the death of the family, she was terrified by the evaporation of her own privilege and the stark realization that the anger she had helped stoke in Kody was now a wildfire she could no longer control. In the end, Christine's slap was the sound of a chains breaking. It was the moment a woman reclaimed her narrative, her voice, and her future. She walked out of that house, leaving the suffocating atmosphere of Kody's ego and Robyn's complicit silence behind her, and into the free air of her own making. The showdown was explosive not for its volume, but for its absolute finality. It was the death knell for the fantasy of the Brown family plural marriage, and the birth of Christine's undeniable autonomy. Kody was left sputtering, his authority neutered. Robyn was left speechless, her position exposed. But Christine? Christine was left free. And in that electrifying, culture-shifting moment, an entire audience bore witness not to a reality TV spat, but to the glorious, unstoppable force of a woman who had finally decided she had nothing left to lose, and in doing so, won everything.